So now that we have a vault, we can add our devices. So since I don't have any device added, you see this pop up, but you can also go to this section and add devices from here. So let's click on this. And basically there are two ways to add devices into Slurpit. One is the manual way, and we use SSH to import devices manually one by one. So if I click on this, add, I can fill in these slots and add my device manually, and I can also make sure that the device is reachable and SSH is also reachable, meaning the device is reachable on port 22. The second feature is to use Device Finder. This is a very powerful feature, and Device Finder, as opposed to the manual way, uses SNMP version 2 and version 3. So as opposed to importing devices manually one by one, we can target a range of IP addresses, a whole subnet, and we import whatever device that is inside that subnet. So here I have 10 devices, and I'm going to import R1 manually, and I'm going to import the whole subnet 31.0, which happens to be my home LAN as well, into Slurpit. But obviously, Slurpit is going to only find the routers in my local area network inside 31.0. That's because these devices are only devices that have SNMP configured on them. So about other devices, I don't have any SNMP running. And as a result, Slurpit is not going to know anything about them. So let's import R1, and host name is going to be R1, operating system iOS. I don't have any domain name, but an IP address 31.49 is R1. You can put the device type as well, for example, router. This is not mandatory, but it's a good idea if you want to import them into Netbox later on. Same with IPv4. So before actually save it, I can actually go ahead and try to save it. But let's do SSH reachability, reachable, and SSH login as well, which is different than pinging it. So with SSH reachable, it is going to ping the device on port 22. With SSH login, it tries to actually log into the device. Now, both attempts were successful. Now I am going to go back and try Device Finder. So with Device Finder, we can add, and I can give it a name. For example, I will call it PNet because I'm going to import routers from my PNet lab. SNMP, I'm going to use version 2C because it just needs a community string and not any type of fancy authentication. So I also have V2 version 2C configured on all the routers. The key would be the community string, which in my case is called Device Finder. Let me actually go to one of my routers and show you the configuration. So this is a Cisco IS router. If you use a different vendor, then obviously the syntax and configuration is and might be different. And I'm just going to show you what I have here. So I'm going to say show run and look for SNMP inside my running config. Basically, this is the only thing you need. If you're labbing this up, if you are testing it, and you're running some iOS router, this is the only thing that you need. SNMP server community, this is your community string, and mine is read write. It can be read only as well, or all, but this is the only thing you need. So I'm going to go back to Slurpit. Now we have some examples here on the right side. I'm just going to type this in 192.168.31.0, and we're going to use prefixes, not subnet mask. Keep in mind that I can target host addresses as well, so it doesn't have to be a range of IP addresses, but I'm going to target the whole subnet. Now, if I save this and start, it's going to take a minute or so, so I'm going to pause the video and come back. Before actually seeing the results, I'm going to go to devices, and R1 is the only device that I have inside the devices list. So again, I'm going to wait for the whole job to be done and come back, see if all the 10 devices are added or not. Okay, now all the devices are added now. If I scroll down, you're going to see that we have 10 devices in the list. I'm just going to show you something else. I'm going to go to the device finder section. So from here, you see another section, another tab, which is crawler. So crawler would try to form SNMP connection with the IP addresses that the plannings would find. For example, if you have an LLDP or CDP planning running, and if in those plannings there were some IP addresses found, then crawler would use those IP addresses to try and find them. Basically, run SNMP, and if the devices were found in a network, then we're going to add them to the devices section. And in the end, I'm going to show you a couple more ways to import devices. So I'm going to go to devices, and from here, I can import a file using a CSV file, or I can API import. So let's use file import. And we have a example here, devices.cv. So let's download this. So I've uploaded the CSV file. I can just go ahead and save it. And there we go. We have these devices. I have 3 devices here. As you can see, they are imported using CSV. So before actually I clean up the devices section, you didn't see any devices. I'm going to do the same. And this time I'm going to import a real device that I have, one of my routers that I have in the lab using APIs. So it's clear once again. Now I'm going to go to import this time, API import. Now I have to post a device in order to create it. I'm going to click on this and try it out. This is the sample section or sample payload. I am going to paste in my payload. R1 is the host name and the other parameters that you are already familiar with. So I am going to execute 201 created. So I'm going to go back to here, refresh, and the device is added using an API call. So that was it for this video. I will see you in the next one.